Good afternoon and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns short news here on YouTube and Periscope. It is Sunday, it's March 24th, it's 5 days to Brexit. We've got a lot to talk about and I definitely want to talk about Brexit today. We should have sound this time, so... yeah, this is Mark II. I did this once and forgot to put the microphone on because, you know, it's like this doing this thing outside on a day, beautiful spring day like this on my porch. I still don't have it down like to muscle memory. I just grab my microphone, do my thing, write up the notes and all of that. So while we're here, before we get started, we got a lot to talk about today. I want to talk about Brexit. Please give a like and subscribe down below if you watch this after the stream, and please consider banging on the notification bell so that, you know, when I do go live, which always happens on Monday nights at 8 and Friday nights at 8:30, as well as I'm usually on the Halsey News channel as well at Deplorable TV on Tuesday nights at 10:30 as well. So, but you can follow my work over at tomluongo.me, as well as you can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728 until, of course, I get big enough that they tell you you're not allowed to have a platform anymore. The hell with you. No. So, with all that out of the way, let's get down to brass tacks about Brexit. Where are we? Well, I don't know if you guys have been following it this morning, but this is the fun part, right? This is the thing, right? This morning, last night, there was a coup attempt against Theresa May. Now, I think we talked about this on Friday. The Financial Times published an article on Friday detailing that Theresa May had finally come to terms with a no-deal Brexit. Now, if the Financial Times, which is as much an EU regime house organ as the Washington Post is a regime mouthpiece for the CIA, if they're saying that the EU is lost here and no deal, and she's going for no-deal Brexit, which is what happened when she went to the European summit last week as well. If they're saying that, odds of that, as far as I'm concerned, went way through the roof. Now, here's the gig. The Remainers in her cabinet attempted a coup yesterday. They tried to get rid of her. So you've got Dominic Reeve out there saying, oh, it's awful. You know, this is the man who's been negotiating with Emmanuel Macron behind May's back. And we had some number of cabinet ministers try to oust her from as PM. And she stood her ground. And apparently, she survived it so far. They tried to take control of the situation, but no one would actually stand up to take the reins, because no one wants the job. As many people have been telling me for the last couple of months now, as we got deeper into this, that she's prime minister because no one else wanted the job, because it's a thankless job. So here we are, about 5 days from Brexit, and the push is on to try and overwhelm people with the idea that leaving on no deal terms is the worst idea, the worst thing that could possibly happen in the universe. But not for Britain, for the EU. And I've got an article coming out tomorrow, or maybe later today, I'm not sure when I'm going to actually publish it, called Brexit, Liberalism's Last Stand. And we discussed this on Friday nights, a preview of this on Friday night's live stream. And it's very important that you understand that this is an existential threat to the EU, and that's why they're fighting this tooth and nail. But at this point, even they can't really fight this anymore. They know that it's all down to whether or not the the British Parliament will stop Brexit on their own. So they supposedly got 1 million people to march in London yesterday. They've gotten all these people to sign a signature petition on the UK government to cancel Article 50. None of that's, or for a second referendum, none of that means anything. It's all meaningless. The minute Theresa May accepted the fact that no deal was a possibility, her cabinet went into overdrive to try and stop her, and they could not do so. So, if the sound and picture are out of sync, I don't know what to do about it at this point. I'm sorry. The only thing I can think of is output. Nope. Nothing I can do about it at this point. The settings are what they are. They're the best they're the best I've got. So if it's a Jackie Chan movie at this point, it's a Jackie Chan movie. So the biggest problem here is that no one wants this job because no one, as I've been saying for months, no one wants to be blamed for scuttling Brexit, but everybody in government wants Brexit scuttled. So, that's the situation. That's the situation. And we're at that point where now Theresa May, now that she's got her cabinet, went into overdrive and went to get rid of her. Now she can roll Philip Hammond, Dominic Grieve, Amber Rudd, and all the rest of them. And she's meeting with the 1922 committee and the ERG right now. And this has been going on now for well over an hour. And guess what? Why is she meeting with those guys now? Well, why do you think she's meeting with those guys? And the DUP. She's meeting with them to see if she can put a cabinet together and fire everybody else and sail on to a no deal on Friday. I just think it's fascinating. I think it's unbelievable. And I always thought that it would kind of get to this point. And the reason why it would get to this point is because at the end of the day, as I said about Robert Mueller yesterday in my article about Russiagate and Hillary Clinton, it's just making the rounds all over the internet right now. It's on InfoWars, it's on the front page of the Duran, it's everywhere. Is because you always bet on people and their reputations. At the end of the day, it's always about their reputations. The reason Donald Trump is a disappointment to me is because he wasn't willing to take on the deep state to the point where his reputation would be truly trashed. Same thing. Theresa May doesn't want to go down in history as the woman who betrayed Brexit. She doesn't want to go down as the worst prime minister of all time. She's going to save the Tory party from itself. She's going to save British democracy from itself, from the people who had completely infiltrated it and handed it all off to the EU. And this is absolutely an existential threat to European democratic socialism, as has been practiced since in the entirety of the post-war era, that has been subsidized dramatically by the United States through the Marshall Plan and NATO, as well as national offshore oil and gas reserves that have, like the Soviet Union, was able to fund its dreams of socialist paradise far beyond any rationality. And now those bills are coming due, and Brexit is a symptom of that, as is what's happening in Italy, as is what's happening in Hungary, as in what's happening in Germany, France, Spain, Hungary, Austria, Lithuania, Estonia, for Christ's sake. All of these places are betting at Spain. All of these places are now turning against this democratic socialist model that doesn't work. And they all understand it. And they're all willing to deal. They're all, at some level, the people have woken up to the fact that all of these governments have written checks that they can't pay. And so, from my perspective here, I've been saying, on Friday I finally said, look, I think 75-25, I think Brexit's going to happen. Now, there's one other point to this, and the reason why I think it's going to happen on Friday and not on the 12th of April is the following. Ready? I've been speaking to some people behind the scenes, a couple of people on Twitter, both in public and behind the scenes, and they've all assured me, and I think Nigel Farage covered it in the second hour of his radio show this morning. I just listened to the first hour. I didn't have time to, I wanted to get to talk to you guys before I went out to dinner with my family and listen to the second hour. But the argument here is that UK law, as far as this is concerned, of course, superior to EU law. So the EU signed a deal with Theresa May on Friday saying, yeah, we agree to an extension to Article 50 to under these conditions to these dates. And the most notable one now is April 12th. But that's an EU side of things. That's from so EU have changed their law. Well, the UK has to change their law, and everybody on the Remain side is talking about indicative votes and this and that and all these other things, and none of them are talking about the fact that they have to actually accept the EU's offer for an extension and make it part of the Article 50 law by Friday, or they leave on the 29th. And there may not be the appetite within Parliament to get that done. And that's why there was a coup attempt this weekend against Theresa May. You got it? And if she's in a meeting with the ERG and the DUP right now, working out a way to create another friggin' cabinet to push through Brexit, because the latest Comres polling has this at 50% of Brits now want a no-deal Brexit. Leave has never been more Remain, has never been more unpopular. She needs to sack Philip Hammond. She needs to sack Amber Rudd. She needs to sack all of them. She's meeting with them. If she can put a government together and survive this thing, and if she gets this thing across the line, she can fall on her sword later on if she wants to, and she'll still be a freaking hero. As a matter of fact, she shouldn't even have to fall on her sword at this point. She could be the woman who bungled and then saved Brexit. Huzzah! Let the woman be prime minister for the next 3 years. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, I don't know how much better this gets. And I don't know if my bandwidth is going to hold out here, because I'm watching my traffic statistics and they look pretty poor. So either someone's using the internet inside, or I don't know. But I got to run because I've got a day. But if this is the case and she survives till tomorrow, Friday, March 29th, they're leaving without a deal. The United States bond markets moved 11. Well, it looks like I've got bandwidth, so I'll stay on. The United States bond markets moved 11 basis points on Friday. We have convexity like we've not seen since 2007. The Fed just capitulated in a way that we haven't seen since Bear Stearns. The ECB is scared to death. The markets are sussing this out now. And everybody's moving to safe haven trade. If gold opens up strong this afternoon and the euro craters below $1.12, everybody get on board. If money starts to move this week outside of the current trading ranges, and we've already seen this in the U.S. Treasury markets. We're seeing this in the German Bund markets. It's everywhere. Guys. Yeah, check bond futures now, Mark Bogosian tells us. He's absolutely right. I'm telling you guys, this is big. This could happen. Prepare to get happy. First, we have Mueller come out and save his career by throwing his bullshit report on the table. Pardon my French. And to try and distract from all this, it's the biggest gift Trump ever got. And now we can actually get Brexit? No deal Brexit, absolutely, Mike X, you're absolutely right. I've been saying this for months. No deal Brexit is the trigger for the collapse of the European Union and for the next sovereign debt crisis. And I don't even think guys like Nigel Farage at this point don't want to alarm anybody. I think he gets it. He doesn't want to say it because it hurts his case politically. I'll say it. No one's listening to me. You think about this. This could be great. This could be big. All right. Anybody got any other comments before I jet off? Because we're at the 15, 16-minute mark now, and I don't really know that this needs to go much longer. We can beat this dead horse all we want, but this is big. Brexit could be done. Brexit could wind up having been done and dusted last week. What was this? Tweety Bird asked me, what was this news about the May calling up armed forces and storing them at the Ministry of Defense? Fear tactics. Jambo says, I don't think she has the courage to put the ERG in the cabinet. I don't either, but it's possible. If we're talking about a massive coup against her, then this is her only other option. I mean, I agree with you that she's avoided this moment for a long time because she was trying to cut a deal, a third-way deal between what the EU wanted and what Brits wanted. But as public sentiment has hardened against Remain and a soft Brexit, she has no other option. She's out of options. You can watch the, so I don't know what else to tell you, but it's either, I mean, that's what happened this morning. And from what I've read on Twitter from a number of different people, the coup against her failed. David Lidington is not going to become prime minister as a caretaker government and then revoke Article 50. Because the Tories understand what that means. It means they're all going to get fired. They're all going to get sacked and tarred and feathered. So. If there's no announcement, Tweety Bird says, if there's no announcement after today, after the tea checkers with Jacob Rees-Mogg, we should see something tomorrow. That's possible. I think there's going to be an announcement tonight. I think it's going to be big. And I might have to actually come back on later tonight and talk about this. The pound has rallied. I don't know what that means at this point. So, I haven't looked at the euro. So, the pound rallies relative to the euro. To me, that means that money thinks that no deal is off the table. But, you know, but that was during the time when there was all the news about the coup. We haven't heard anything else since then. So, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Very, very, very interesting. Because, look, I say it again, and I'll say it to everybody over and over and over again. This is Marxism's fork in the road. This is Marxism's fork in the road. Jabba Soapbox says, from what he's heard, May is still trying to get the ERG to support the deal. That's not going to happen. They have all the cards right now. They're 5 days from getting exactly what they want, and she has no leverage over them. Now, if that's what she's trying to do, then what she's trying to do is hold off the coup against her. And that's not going to fly. Her better option is to cut a deal with them and move on. So we'll see. Now, a lot of people don't want to admit that Theresa May might have finally come down on the side of no deal Brexit. But when she put that on the table to the EU the other day during the European summit, that they weren't prepared for. That they didn't know how to deal with. And they had to, and then they wound up at a 5-hour meeting that they didn't know how to deal with it because all of a sudden the EU was fracturing. They expected to rubber stamp the timeline. And then she came back and said, no deal is still on the table. We'll leave on Friday. And guess what? All of a sudden they had to negotiate. All of a sudden they got an unconditional 2-week extension. It's the last time you heard the EU negotiating. Yes, they caved and gave an unconditional delay, meaning they finally have the European Union by the short and curlies. That's what this means. No one on the other side of the channel is happy about this. No one in Brussels is happy about this. It's good news. Because, look, at the end of the day, everything is predicated on this moronic 170 years now moronic idea of the end of capitalism and the inevitability of communism. All these frickin' Marxists have changed their stripes through multiple different iterations and everything else, and they've tried all these different ideas and all these different governments and all this crap. And none of it, not a word of it, is have a basis in reality. And yet they continue to try and play it down the line. They continue to try and argue for it. Because it's easy to appeal to people's envy. It's easy to get people angry and envious of that which other people don't have. It's Marxism's unquenchable envy. That's what this is about. That's what all those people, look, at the end of the day, I don't blame the people who marched yesterday. I don't blame the Remainers. They don't understand. They believe or they don't understand any of this stuff. They don't understand how vile this deal is. They still think that the European Union is willing to negotiate and, give Britain some leeway if they just stay in the... No, you don't argue with bullies. These people are freaking... These people are not... They don't listen. And you can't get this through certain people's heads because they're approaching this the way... They're approaching the EU's negotiating stance and the relationship the way they would approach it. And you can't do that. You have to assume that the person on the other side of the table in any negotiation is an unrepentant, psychopathic killer with a knife behind his back. If you don't do that, you will never cut a good agreement. You will never cut a proper contract, ever. You have to assume the other guy is trying to cheat you. All right, let's look at some of the comments before I go. Jambo reminds us, the notion that the ERG would support the deal if she resigns is nonsense. You're absolutely right. The ERG has held their line on this. They've told them all that we don't care who's in charge. None of you people matter. It's not about Theresa May. It's about the deal. The deal's terrible. They already described it as the worst deal ever. Liz Sandy says, imagine May's visits with the Queen. Must be most uncomfortable. No British politicians outside the ERU have got the bottle to allow no deal. Right. That's the problem. But they're the ones with the hammer. The EU scowling makes me very happy. Uncle Juncker will be under the table drunk. People talk about May being incompetent, but the EU bureaucrats are just as big useless idiots. You're right. I don't even think that May is incompetent. I think she went into negotiations with the wrong perspective. I think she went in with the idea of trying to secure a deal to remain in the European Union. She's not incompetent. She achieved that goal. What she's incompetent at is getting it over the line because that deal was unacceptable to everybody. And from her perspective, okay, Merkel gives us this offer, which is nonsense. It's just crap. My job then as British Prime Minister is to deliver Brexit and save the Tory party. And that's exactly what she's been doing in her own weird roundabout way. Many of the marchers yesterday actually believe they're EU citizens now and not British. Well, as Nigel Farage said yesterday, they're EU nationalists. Well, they should go move to the European Union. They have been gaslit by every institution as well. Yes, News at 13 reminds me that the marchers have just swallowed the cultural Marxist line and are part of the problem. They are absolutely have swallowed the cultural Marxist line and are part of the problem. And that's just the way it is. Tweety Bird, this has been Tweety Bird's comment, which I'm about to read, is exactly what I've been arguing for weeks. May's floundering and flogging her bad deal. Her stubbornness may have helped it get to the point where we're less than a week away from hard Brexit. It's increased support for Brexit because it's now forced the British people to decide what kind of Brexit they wanted. We get down to the brass tacks, and the polls are moving vastly against Remain. Wow. News at 13, nearly the most cynical person I know, and I say that with love. by the way. Sadly, Theresa May has more skill in NADS than Donald Trump, it seems. Maybe. Maybe. All right, guys. This has been fun. This has been great. Tomorrow's going to be even better, I'm sure. You guys have a great afternoon. We'll talk soon. Keep your stick on the ice.